The year is 1943. The most brutal war in history is not just being fought in the rubble of cities or the jungles of the Pacific. It is also being fought here, in the vast, frozen desolation of the Arctic Circle. This is a war of convoys, a desperate struggle to keep the Soviet Union supplied with American and British aid through the Murmansk run. This icy sea route is perhaps the most dangerous journey on Earth, a gauntlet of hurricane force, storms, pack ice, and the constant, mortal threat of the German Kriegsmarine. And it is a war of shadows, where long-range bombers fly lonely, agonizing missions in unbearable cold, hunting the German U-boats and surface raiders that prey on the ships below. This is a white, sterile hell, a place where the enemy is not just the man in the other uniform, but the ice, the wind, and the minus 40-degree temperature. An enemy that is always present and never sleeps. For the crew of the Red Star, a Soviet Petlyakov P-8 long-range bomber, this is their unforgiving reality. Their captain, a stoic veteran named Orlov, has flown dozens of missions. Over this white desert, his face a mask of old frostbite scars and exhaustion. Their aircraft is a flying fortress, a symbol of Soviet resilience, a massive, crude, and unbelievably tough machine. But out here, it is a tiny, warm-blooded speck in a world of ice. It is a beast to fly, rattling and cold, but it is their beast. Their mission today is a critical one, a long-range strike against German U-boat pens in the deep, protected fjords of occupied Norway. This nest of vipers, as Stalin has called it, has been bleeding the Allied convoys dry, and it must be destroyed, no matter the cost. The raid is a partial success, a chaotic blur of flak, smoke, and the percussive crump of their bombs echoing off the fjord walls. But it comes at a terrible cost. As they turn for home, a hidden German 88mm flak battery opens up, and a shell tears a violent, gaping hole through their starboard wing. One engine is obliterated, a mass of burning metal that quickly tears away. A second is hit, and the crew can hear it scream as it leaks a dark, precious stream of oil and fuel. The flight back is a race against time, a desperate, losing battle against gravity and a failing fuel gauge. The navigator, his face pale, his hands shaking as he makes his calculations, informs Captain Orlov of the death sentence. They will not make it back to the Soviet mainland. The second engine sputters, coughs a final, metallic shriek, and dies. The Red Star is now a 30-ton glider. Its only power the whistle of the wind through its flak-torn fuselage. Orlov fights the controls, his muscles burning as he tries to keep the nose level, shouting for his men to brace for impact. There is no water, no friendly runway, only a jagged, endless expanse of sea ice. The bomber slams into the ice pack, a deafening, tearing, metal-shrieking sound of pure, unimaginable violence. The fuselage rips open, and the plane skids for 1,000 yards in a cloud of snow, ice, and debris before finally, violently, coming to a stop. Then there is only silence, a new kind of silence, deafening, frozen, and absolute. Orlov awakens to the screaming wind and a pain in his chest. His first sensation is not the pain, but the cold. It is an invasive, biting cold, a physical thing that is already trying to kill him. He is alive. His co-pilot, slumped over the yoke, is not. He drags himself from the shattered cockpit into the blinding, featureless white. He does a terrible, slow inventory of his 7-man crew. For left, himself, the young radio man, a boy of 19 named Sasha, the navigator, whose leg is badly broken, and the tail gunner, Mikhail, a grim, hardened Siberian who seems almost carved from the ice itself. The cold is a living enemy. They are hundreds of miles from any known land, with a broken radio, a handful of flares, and a single Tokarev pistol. The first night is a descent into a frozen hell. The temperature plummets to minus 30 degrees, and the wind is a razor. They huddle together in the broken fuselage, a desperate, shivering mass of bodies, listening to the navigator's thin, delirious moans. The tail gunner, Mikhail, uses his survival knowledge to create a makeshift windbreak from cockpit seats. But it is not enough. To stay awake is an agony of shivering. To fall asleep is to die. Orlov forces them to talk, to slap each other's faces, to fight the sweet, deadly lethargy that is creeping into their bones. Above them, the aurora borealis, the northern lights, dance across the sky, a silent, beautiful, cold, and utterly indifferent witness to their suffering. For 2 days, they survive on salvaged rations, frozen, rock-hard biscuits, and melted snow, which takes them hours to create with a small survival lighter. The radio man, Sasha, tries endlessly to get a signal, his bare fingers cracking open and freezing to the metal components of the salvaged radio. He cries out in frustration, his breath fogging, as only static answers his call. The tail gunner, Mikhail, scouts their surroundings, but there is nothing. He returns, his face covered in ice, and reports only a white desert, just ice, jagged pressure ridges like frozen mountains, and a silence so total it rings in the ears. They are the only living things in this world, and the world is trying to correct that. On the 3rd day, the radio man, his eyes raw and slit against the blinding snow blindness, sees it. At first, Orlov thinks it's a hallucination, a cruel trick of the light, but it is not. On the distant horizon, a dark smudge, an unnatural shape. It is not a pressure ridge, and unmistakably, there is a thin, dark wisp of smoke rising from it. It is a sign of life. It is hope, a jolt of adrenaline that feels like fire. It could be a Soviet scientific station, a lost Norwegian trapper, or a rescue team. Orlov makes the decision. They will march. Orlov and Mikhail create a makeshift sled for the wounded navigator, and the 4 men, a stumbling, pathetic, but desperate line, begin their march. It takes them hours. The smudge grows, and as they get closer, their desperate hope freezes in their throats. The dark shape is not a hut. It is the black, sinister, shark-like conning tower of a submarine, a German U-boat, lodged in a deep crack in the ice. It is trapped, or perhaps it has surfaced in this natural harbor to make repairs. The smoke is from its diesel engines, which are running to keep the batteries charged. The Soviet airmen have stumbled from one war into another. They flew hundreds of miles to hunt this very monster, and now they have stumbled directly into its lair. Their hearts sink. The hope that pulled them this far turns to cold dread. Before the Soviet crew can retreat, a lone, bundled figure on the U-boat's tower spots them. He raises his binoculars. There is a shout, and the harsh, metallic clang of an alarm klaxon echoes across the ice. Figures spill from the submarine's hatch. They are Kriegsmarine sailors, pale and bearded, shocked to see anyone in this wasteland. But the shock quickly turns to cold, hard duty. The bomber crew, with their one pistol, are not fellow survivors. They are the enemy, witnesses to the U-boat's vulnerable position. The German captain gives an order. A patrol fans out, carrying rifles. The crack of the first Mauser shot shatters the Arctic silence. The hunt begins. Captain Orlov and his men are weak, frostbitten, and dragging a wounded man. But they are not soldiers. They are airmen, and they are desperate. The tail gunner, Mikhail, is now in his element. This is Siberia, but worse. He takes command, his voice a low, harsh growl. He leads them into a maze of towering ice floes and pressure ridges, a blue, crystalline labyrinth. For hours, it is a deadly game of cat and mouse. The muffled shouts in German, the crack of a rifle, the whine of a ricochet off the ice. The Germans are better fed and better armed, but the Soviets are fueled by a primal, desperate fear and a burning hatred for the invaders of their homeland. The net is closing. The Germans are experienced hunters, and they are flanking them. They trap the airmen against a sheer, 50-foot wall of glacial ice. It is the end. As the German commander raises his hand to signal the final assault, the world changes. The sky, which had been a clear, cold gray, turns a sickly, dark yellow. The wind, which had been a whisper, becomes a physical, screaming wall of sound. An Arctic blizzard, a whiteout, descends in an instant, a force more terrible than any army. Visibility drops from 100 yards to 0 in seconds. The true god of the Arctic has arrived. The blizzard rages for a full, terrifying day. It is a deafening, lightless, 100-mile-per-hour howl that scours the ice clean. The hunt is over. The war is over. All ideology, all hatred, is scoured away by the wind. There are no Soviets, no Germans. There are only dying men from the same species huddling in shallow ice caves, separated by only a few hundred yards, but in different worlds. The cold, which had been their enemy, is now their only shield, a mutual, indiscriminate executioner that does not care about their flags. They are all just men, begging the storm to end. The storm breaks as suddenly as it began. The silence that returns is shocking, a pristine, muffled quiet. The world is new, clean, and silent. The sun reflecting off the fresh snow with a blinding intensity. Orlov and Mikhail emerge, stiff and barely alive, into this new world. They see the bodies of two German sailors, frozen solid in the snow, grotesque statues of ice-caked wool. In the distance, the U-boat is gone. The ice crack has been swallowed by a new mountain of snow and ice. The Iron Wolf is entombed. The Arctic has passed its judgment. The radio man, Sasha, his fingers black with frostbite, crawls from the hole. He tries the radio one last time, his movements clumsy. A crackle, a faint, ghostly voice in his headphones. He fires their last flare, a desperate streak of red against the blue-white sky. They wait, nothing, and then they hear it. A low, growing drone, not from the ground, but from the sky. A Soviet Catalina flying boat, a Lend-Lease plane from the Americans, breaks through the low clouds. It spots them. They are saved. As the flying boat makes its dangerous, skidding landing on the ice, Orlov looks back at the tomb of his enemies. There are no winners in this place, only survivors. The red star painted on the plane's fuselage is the most beautiful sight he has ever seen. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, hit the like button and subscribe for more daily content.